I recently did a video discussing what was going on in this Fantastic Four comic book recently released, and it had Johnny shacking up essentially with this alien bug looking thing. Now, as to be anticipated, because your usual suspects operate under the presumption that people won't actually look into the context, because in the video we provide all the context and discuss everything. But it's social media, so often people go off of headlines and that's it. And there are those that, despite being a little deranged, they're at least smart enough to know that their audience won't bother to look anything up, so they just accept the word for it. So they start operating on this sort of straw man. And I just wanted to discuss more or less the point and what realization I've even had to come to terms with regarding this. But I brought this up because there's someone that posted this, says he does know in comics humans and aliens can have a relationship with each other, right? Because that's not part of the dispute by any means. I mean, that we actually go through it in that previous video that I did, where we talk about the subject matter. It's not about aliens per se. It's about, this isn't, and I talk about it here, it's not some humanoid looking alien. And I think that there were people that are anticipating that folks wouldn't look this up. But when you look at what this bug thing is, and I mentioned it, it's essentially hallucinogenia. It's not a humanoid alien. There are no human features at all, which makes it even more so weird. And I even kind of let me see if I can find the actual post where yeah, here it is. Like, that's not, the picture says it all. Okay. Now, this is what I've come to terms with, because someone to respond with this, and essentially they said that they wanted to bang some, basically a monster, as opposed to an alien. I don't know, with green skin or something of that nature that looks like a humanoid, but they have humanoid future features, excuse me, but they're alien. They'd just rather shack up with a bug essentially, and they said this loud and proud. And so I'm like, okay, I know, I get it, man. People are into weird stuff. They have their own little fetishes and all that, whatever. That said, what makes this particularly interesting is that we're dealing with this sort of cultural hijack. Now, I do believe that is completely degenerate. But at minimum, when you do that on kind of your own terms with your own unique properties, people tolerate that far more. But when you start to, definitely with something like Fantastic Four, you talk about Marvel's first family, yeah, it's going to leave kind of a sour taste in its mouth, because of the lack of decency that is sort of shown there, in which you're basically, I don't know if the writer is into this sort of stuff. That's the thing they're into, and they just wanted to kind of project that onto a character that is already established. I mean, we've seen a lot of that sort of cultural vandalism happening across all sorts of different like characters and properties. These are characters and properties that these people did not create. They more or less inherited. They were created 50, 60, whatever, 70 years ago. And they're using this as an opportunity to try to, like, let's say, attempt to normalize their, albeit degenerate behavior. And like I said earlier, I've come to terms with people are just into some people are just into weird stuff. But the big disconnect, guys, for you guys that, again, are just straw manning the position, the big disconnect here is that, for one, you're dealing with just like, this is legitimately weird. But on a more important note, you're taking things that have already existed, that have these baked in fan bases, and people have this sort of real, they have an expectation that you're going to treat it with some sort of decency, not to use it as a vehicle for your own kind of degenerate sort of kinks and stuff that you're into. So when you do that, people are going to speak out and they're going to feel some kind of way about it. But I don't, for once, let's say, really believe that a lot of these folks are really interested in these sort of properties. They're more or less interested in the platform that property can give them, so they can live this out. So, of course, the weirdos are going to be like, well, there's nothing wrong, even though I think deep down they know it's something wrong, which is why they straw man the position, which is why, instead of saying, oh, well, it was the bug aspect and not like a humanoid bug aspect, you're talking about some weird looking centipede thing, not something with humanoid features. They neglected to mention that. So that tells me that they know that this is some degenerate stuff that they would like to rather keep concealed, but they're trying to inch closer and closer to this sort of normalization. Guys, it's not going to work. I do believe that you're better off doing it with your own properties, and it's not, when I say better off, that doesn't mean you're going to have success. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to rag on you for being into some weird stuff. I'm just saying that it's going to be a lot more. It's not going to be tasteful. That's not even a proper term. Tolerable, I guess, if you're doing that with your own property, as opposed to taking something that has existed. And then you look at Fantastic Four, which people kind of look as this sort of fabric of American sort of culture. Like I said, it's part of it's Marvel's first family, so there's a lot more that you're dealing with than just, hey, it's just your sort of degenerate kinks and whatnot. So, just giving a little more perspective. But look, I conceded that people are just into some very, very weird stuff. Thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to Rippaverse.com to check out our comic book company. We have books, plenty of merchandise, and even some glorious animations from Rippaverse Studios.